Greetings, one and all. Your cartoonist pal Stan here with a live new episode of Random Encounters, the show where I use random encounter tables, like the kind you find in tabletop role-playing games, such as Dungeons and Dragons. I use them. I kind of always trip over that line. And I use them. Maybe I need to rewrite it. I don't know. Been doing this for going on 2 full years, and I'm still making tweaks. I use the random encounter tables and input from you in the audience and my own creative brain to randomly generate cartooning prompts. Just basic ideas that we can create something from. It'll have a who, it'll have a character or a creature or some kind of subject, and a what, a situation or an activity or a dress mode, some kind of thing. Take those two things, smash them together, and then together we kind of come up with it. All right, yeah, I start coming up with stuff, but I look to you to come up with suggestions, and we have some fun. We spend hour and a half putting together 3 different prompts and drawing them out of nowhere for your entertainment and mine, because this is all fun. The thing that got me going on this and the thing I want to spread is the joy of cartooning, the joy of drawing just for the fun of it. So I encourage you, I invite you to grab your favorite pen and paper, your favorite notebook, your favorite electronic drawing implement, and draw along. You don't have to draw the same things I'm drawing. I certainly don't have to draw them the same way I'm drawing them. You can draw anything you want. Draw what you see in front of you. Draw the soda can in front of you. Draw your cat sleeping over there on the bench. I don't actually have a cat, but I look that way and it seems like I might. Just draw circles and shapes and geometric things for the fun of it. For the fun of it. That's what it's all about. Hello, Michael Pastor. Thank you for joining. Always good to see you, my friend. I know that I know you get a kick out of this. I get a kick out of it. And according to my analytics, some number of people also get a kick out of it too. So that's what we're here doing. I do my drawing, as I do all of my professional drawing these days, on an iPad Pro using the app Procreate and an Apple Pencil. None of this is sponsored. None of them have sponsored it. They're probably not even aware I exist. Though, if they do see this and they want to talk about a sponsorship, give me a call. And anyone else wants to talk about a sponsorship, give me a call. I'm open to suggestions. So I'm going to grab my iPad here and I'm going to open it up. And I'm going to get our encounter tables for the evening. Interesting set, I think. And we're going to use a die rolling app, like the kind I always use here. And we're going to get us some randomly generated cartooning prompts. And we're going to dive right in. So here we go. I'm going to roll this a whole bunch and come up with... No, come on. I hate when I'm hitting it and it stops rolling. There we go. All right, so 1. Still comes back to the 1. 1 is our first who. And 4. 4 is our first what. So let's go back to the encounter tables and see what that means. 1 is a Yeti, and 4 is a quilting bee. Yeti and a quilting bee. Or maybe multiple Yetis. We'll see. So I'm going to come here. I'm going to turn off the list. We are going to the sketch layer here in round 1. Turn on the blue pencil. I like to do my sketching in blue. It harkens back to my time doing physical drawing. If anyone ever gets a physical drawing from me, you will find that I've done the underdrawing, the under pencils in a light blue. And that goes back to when drawings had to be photo reproduced, and that blue was a color that could not be picked up by the reproduction system, so it made it easier on erasing. Hello, Kerry. How are things going there in Maryland? Hope the answer is that things are going well. Hello, Nicholas. Thank you for joining us tonight, too. All right, so we got Yeti Quilting Bee is our thing, so we're going to start. I'd like to have Yetis with a big kind of squarish head, and there'll be a face somewhere under there. Now, I personally don't sew or quilt, but I have an idea of what it ought to look like. I think the joke in here is probably going to be what is on the patches that are in the quilt. So if you can think of some funny things that a Yeti might be using for the as the basis for the quilt, then you can I can add that in. You will be a part of this drawing. Why are we making a quilt? You're already too warm. Well, you know, it's winter weather isn't what it used to be, is it? But still have winter weather themes for my list. Okay. It's looking pretty good, I think, for a starting sketch. Um, so yeah, I think the input that I'm going to need from you guys, or I invite you to suggest, are um, things that are the Yeti might be using for a quilt, using for the patches in the quilt. You know, some might be the flags that they took down from the top of Mount Everest. I don't know what other rags might a Yeti find in the Himalayas. What other strips of cloth are there floating around for a Yeti to use? So I always say start with a line that you're confident in. In this case, I'm very confident about that ear. Why? Because that ear's not going to move. For sure, that's going to need to be there. And sticking the tongue out as one does when working hard. I often will make the eyes mostly black, but I think this being a Yeti, I definitely want to have have the eyes be a lighter color. I don't know why, but I have a feeling Yetis have like light blue or violet eyes. The George Mallory name tag, yeah, a little dark, but that's the kind of humor, we're looking at Yeti humor. Don't love that. There we go. And of course, a Yeti is mostly going to be white-skinned or white-furred, but we will use some highlighting to accent that. Meanwhile, though, it's important to even more. So when we're doing things that have, we're going to have more color in them. There's a lot of times you don't have to worry so much about getting all the lines to do all of the storytelling. The coloring will do part of it, but in a case like this, where the Yeti is going to be mostly white furred, it's important. The lines become a little more important, I guess is what I'm saying. Not that you should ever dog it, right? You should always try and get your drawings to show what you want them to show. But as I do often say, you want to allow your viewers' eyes and brain to do as much work for you as possible. Okay. Now we're going to come here and put the quilt in. See, I'm playing with the line weight, and because I'm using an Apple pencil, which has very good pressure sensitivity, all I really have to do is be mindful of that pressure sensitivity. If you were using a different um, electronic drawing app that did not have such good pressure sensitivity, you might want to switch back to different um, different brushes to get this idea of different line weights. You want to vary your line weight when you're drawing to get to serve ideas like distance and thickness and structure. So I want, for example, the border of the quilt. You see, have got a nice strong bold line here, but for um, the quilt lines, we got a thinner line because it's those are pieces of cloth that are sewn together to create this quilt. Let's see. I'm gonna look here what we got. We got the Grinch. Got the flag of Nepal. You know what? I could look that up. A snakesicle. Dave Lemon. Hi, Dave Lemon. Dave Lemon had was is a I've known Dave for quite a long time, and we used to play in a Villains and Vigilantes game back in the '80s, where he had a character who was a Yeti, and snakesicles are a reference to some things that happened in that particular campaign. Those of you who don't know what Villains and Vigilantes are, well, I pity you. It is a superhero tabletop role playing game that was around in the early days of tabletop role playing games. I'm gonna have a rock here that he's leaning against. Now let's see what we got. The MAGA red flag. Now I think I'm gonna stay away from that. I don't want to give them any kind of publicity. You know what? I'm going to take a very brief detour and put that aside and come to my computer here. I know you can't see it, but I'm going to look up the flag of Nepal to see what that looks like. Goodness. All right. That's interesting. I did not know that. It's a not rectangular shaped flag. But you can certainly work with that shape in there. So I think we'll come here and we will put in, it is a double triangle shape, the flag of Nepal. For those of you who, like me, did not know. And it's got one, like a starburst. It's all red, and these are white emblems in it. One's like a starburst, and one's like a half, a crescent with a starburst on top. And it's lined in blue. So you need to remember that blue, red, and white are the colors on this particular patch. And what else have people suggested here that we might put on it? We have the Grinch. Oh, Grinchy, Grinchy, Grinch. I guess I'm going to keep using the um, the computer for reference. So we're going to have the Grinch here. Grinch has no ears. Okay, the Grinch can be on one of them. What else have people suggested here? Um, Jack Nicholson in the snow, like from The Shining. That's a little too complicated for me to draw in such a square spot in this forum. I think that if I was doing this as a finished piece and I was spending more time with each element, that would be a great element to work in. Let's see. We're going to have a snakesicle here, which really is just a snake. With icicles hanging off it. Let's see if we've got any other suggestions here. Igloo cooler icon. Igloo cooler. What is their icon like? Oh, it just says igloo. I'm a little leery of actually. I like putting these in as subtle nods. Actually, putting in a brand name, I'm not so keen on, but it's got those. That's the graphic element for the igloo cooler. All right, that's looking good. And we're gonna put some mountains in the background. Like so. And we've got ourselves a good little line drawing. I think that's it's a good way to go. I'm looking back at what we got here. Frosty Yukon Cornelius. Well, maybe I'll add those in too. Let's get into the coloring stage and then see how we're doing time wise. So I'm going to turn off the sketch layer and go to the colors layer. I'm going to switch to my gloaming brush, which gives me a nice crayony markery color. I'm going to use a purplish gray color for the non-fur sections of the Yeti's skin. When I drew the Yeti that Dave Lemon played in our game, it was almost all white with just the nose and the lips around the mouth were the only parts that were not uh, covered with white fur. More recently, I've done things like this just so I could get more expression the onto the Yeti's face. Mm, there we go, and we're gonna go with a pale light blue eyes. And then for the fur, we're also gonna go with a bluish color, but a darker gray, so it doesn't look so clean and pure blue or pure white. Right? He's running around in the snow doing stuff. He's not taking baths much. Suppose if I really wanted him to look dirty, I would have a more uh, brownish or yellowish gray instead of blue. There we go. Just like that. It makes the whole. Again, I'm presuming this is working for you. I notice myself, once I start adding these highlights on, I'm going to switch colors. This color starts to look different than this color or this color just because of the highlights that are on it. My brain is interpreting it, and so those blue highlights are telling me that the fur is a color rather than just being blank white like everything else. All right, since we got the red out, let's use that for the border of the quilt. That's a good color, right? And if we come back in with a darker bit of that red, we can start looking at the flag of Nepal, which, as I was saying before, is a big red double triangle with a blue line around it, blue border around it, and then the white emblems inside it. Igloo often is black, so we'll use our faux black, a dark blue faux black. For the igloo, the Grinch, of course, is green. That's too happy a green. There we go. And our snakesicle will be a kind of rattlesnake colors with blue for the ice. Go for a pale yellow background on that piece of cloth. Ooh, a little hiccup. Maybe I ate my dinner too fast. Okay, maybe a rosy kind of red. No. Maybe we'll go with a green variant, a dark. Green. Is that too dark? Maybe. I think it's overpowering it visually. So we're going to drop that down to just a weaker version of that color. Lighter, slightly lighter version of the same color. And, oh, maybe an orange. Up here. Just a bunch of different colors, right? Because it's a quilt. We've got a lot of colors going on. I'm thinking. What color haven't we done here? There we go. We've got our Yeti doing some sewing. And now, even lighter. Go. And again, to get a clean white, we're going to go with a lighter blue for highlights on the snow. There we go. I think that's about it. I think we got ourselves a nice little Yeti sewing a quilt. So I'm going to come back to my lines layer, snap back to black and my inking brush, so I can come down to the corner and put a little stand on it to indicate that we are done. Always sign your work. Well, you don't have, not a command, but you should always be willing to sign your work. Always be happy to sign your work. If you don't want to, you don't want to. But don't never be ashamed to put your signature on something. I remember when I was young and I used to put my signature on something. I don't know whether it was my brother or my sister or friends that would mock me for putting my signature on my drawing in clear bit. But you know what? It's important. It's important. It's an important part of taking ownership of your drawing. So, there we go. Terry says mom was a big time quilter and she would have approved. Who could ask for anything more? Michael says we're having the house painted and we are painting test squares. Well, it's a lot like quilting on the wall. All right. I think we've got something worthwhile for our first drawing there. Our Yeti sewing a quilt. So, take another sip here. Oh, let's reset things first. Turn off round 1 and turn on round 2. Go to the sketch layer, turn back on the the encounter table. Make sure everything's all set. Back to the blue color for the brush. And we finished our first drawing for the evening. We had a Yeti sewing a quilt. Let's go back to the dice and see what we get for our second drawing. We'll go over to the die roller and see what it shows us this time. So in one situation, we're going to roll a bunch and roll a bunch and roll a bunch, and we get a 3. 3 is our next who. And we're going to roll some more, roll some more, roll some more, and 5. 5 is our next what? 3 and a 5. So that will turn out to be a Kobold Snowball fight. We almost had a ninja snowball fight. That would have been interesting. Kobold Snowball fight. All right. So come turn off the encounter tables. Go back to our sketch layer. It's time to draw us a Kobold Snowball fight. This I could actually take like a whole, instead of the half hour, do the drawing 2 and 3 and spend it all drawing this. You could get a lot of detail into it, but we're not going to. I'm going to start on one end though. And we're going to have one kobold here, and he's throwing a snowball up at something up there. So up there, I guess we're going to have a snow fort or a snow hill. This will be a snow fort. He's out on one side, and on the other side we're going to have some other kobold. So over here, we're going to have the kobold getting hit by that. The line is not quite what I want it to be. So the line's going to go up like this. And that kobold is getting hit. And falling off the top of the snow fort. Down here we can have just a huge pile of snowballs. And a kobold standing on top of them, making another snowball. In fact, we'll make it clear here that this side of this fort, they keep digging the snowballs out of it. There we go. This over here, I'll have another kobold running up. With a snowball in hand. One kobold. I'm not being successful at making them all about the same size. So I'm going to grab this guy. I'm going to make him, I'm going to increase the size on him a bit. So he winds up being about the same size. I'm going to do the same thing maybe for these other two. I guess alternatively I could go back and shrink the first guy, but I need The smaller I make them, the harder. The more of them I can fit in, but the harder it is to draw them. Okay. We can have one kobold here, just poking his head out of the snow like he was hiding down there. Looking at this, I tell you what, I'm looking at this, and my big question is, I like each one of these kobolds, but like the last time, I put a mountain in the background, and that really filled it out. Right now, this big empty space is, I don't know what I'm going to put there. Maybe nothing, because this is a quick drawing, but right now, I'm looking at that, and that's the problem I need to solve. Hello, Ravenlore. Oh, I love you platonically too. Thank you very much, man. Good to see you here. Thank you for coming. So let's go to the lines layer. Got to jump there quickly this time because we got a lot of things going on in this drawing. They all need to get drawn. So I'm going to make. Actually, I was talking before about changing the brush or changing the brush size because everything in this drawing is so small. I'm making the size of the brush smaller than I usually do for these drawings. That's going to allow me to get a little more detail and or not lose the detail because the lines are so thick. That's the other thing I want to do is make sure that I give them some winter clothing, which is just funny to me. Kobolds in winter clothing. That in itself just seems a little funny. Kobolds have those backwards. Uh, I don't know the proper term. Is it brachiating knees? I don't know why that's seeming like the right term to me. Could be. Carrie, my doctor friend, may be able to set us straight on that. You want to get this the idea of speed. You draw some parallel lines and a couple of little speed echoes along there to show that this was a quickly thrown thing, and put a little some shake lines on our kobold that threw it. He really took one in the chops, this guy. Smack! Now, for each one of these characters, uh, I'm again beginning with the line I'm confident in, because every time you start a new figure, you have that same problem or that same challenge. Look at that. Oh, he is full of righteous fury. Or, reptilian fury. And then we've got this guy here. Sitting on the back, kind of safe out of harm's way, just making the snowballs. It's not always the way. The guy making the snowballs is somehow out of range, out of sight when it comes time to start getting hit with snowballs. So he's scooping the snowballs out of the side there. Self righteous fury. Yeah, that's probably closer to true. And here's a trick for drawing this big pile of snowballs. What I'm going to do is pick a few of them and put them in as fully drawn snowballs, particularly around the edges, but a few that are complete, and then put half completed ones behind it so you can't see the whole of the snowball, to give the implication that there's lots more behind it. Okay. I think that's what we're going to do for this. Looking pretty good for a start. I mean, I've got to turn off the sketch layer, and see what we've really got. But it's a pretty good start to a Kobold Snowball fight. Again, for our quick draw purposes, there's only so much detail you can get in half an hour. You know, it's an important part of any creative project is to bear in mind what the parameters are. Right? In this case, the parameters are very loose, but they do include that I want this to be finished in about half an hour or less. So that is always one of the things I take in mind when getting started on one of we get our prompt, and then I start thinking what's funny, and I'm immediately pairing that with what can I get done in the half hour time frame. And you'll see very often I will say things to you like not that's a funny idea, but not a good fit for what we're doing right here. And sometimes it's because I know Dave probably got very tired of hearing me say this to him. I was saying it a lot for a while, that he had ideas that would be great um, for multi-panel cartoons, but just really weren't working for me anyway as single-panel ideas. Uh, Similar to that is that's a really good idea, but it's just too much detail for a 15-minute drawing. Anyway, I'm making myself laugh. That's a good. Can we have a Jack in the snow for this one? Can we have Jack in the snow? Jack? I don't know what you mean by Jack in the snow. Holy hand grenade of Antioch. If I drew that right here in a tiny little form, would you be able to tell that that's what it was? Okay. Let's switch over to colors. We're going to go to the color layer. We're going to switch over to our gloaming brush. And our kobolds are all going to be a lizardly tan. And I suppose I could make the kobolds. There's a lot of debate in various, not surprisingly, in gaming circles, we have lots of debates about silly things that don't have real answers, but seem very important to us. And one of them is whether kobolds are lizard-like or um, or furry or dog-like, really, um, because different sources describe them different ways. D&D, they've definitely gone with a lizard version, and Kobold Press, another publishing company, used that as their model. I'm more apt to draw lizard-like kobolds. On the other hand, my friend, cartoonist John Kovalik, has been involved in a game over the years called Kobolds Ate My Baby, and John always draws kobolds that come out of the dog sphere. I mean, they look very goblin-y. They don't look particularly canine, but they're furry uh, uh, creatures. And the beautiful thing is, both are right. Neither is wrong. Okay, let's go. Now we need to put some color on their winter clothing. I'm just going to give them each a different colored jacket. like so. I'm going to go back to that yellowish tan and give the underbelly just a slightly lighter color where it shows. Underbelly, underside of the tail, and likewise go for a slightly darker color for where the tail, the spines and such. It'll be inside of the mouth where we can see it. And what else do we need? What else do we need? We need to come in with a light blue for shadowing on the snow. Again, to take it from seeming quite so flat, and give it a little depth and texture. Oop, am I doing this on the lines layer? No, I'm not. Oh, I put those lines on the color layer. That's what happened there. Always have to be careful anytime you're switching back and forth between lines and color that you get the you stay on the layer you want to be on. Now here's another thing I'm going to do. I'm going to put some quick colors on these snowballs, but then I'm going to go for a darker version of that same thing. And I'm going to stick it on the inside where I want to look at like it's hollowed out and behind the space between snowballs. There we go. I think we've got it. You know what? I was thinking about the background. What do I want to put in the background? And I think I'm going to add a new layer behind what they've got there. Now, because the gloaming is a see-through brush, it's partially, it's not fully opaque. That makes things a little tougher, but I'm going to just draw the idea of some trees in the background. We're not even going to give them fully rendered lines, just some colors in a roughly fir tree shape. And doing that, it gives the whole thing a sense of being a completed drawing, of having. I mean, I don't know. It amazes me when I do things like this how much just those couple of lines really makes it feel like a full scene. Right? If I take those out, it's fine, but it feels super flat. I mean, it is just existing on one plane. But if I add in those backgrounds, it's not doesn't feel like I've stuck just a flat plane like a, a background painting, a matte painting at the back of a theater. It makes it feel like the whole thing has a little more depth, like it's a full scene. I and I know it's all in my head. It's all in my head. Hopefully, it's in your head too. All right, so I'm going to now go back to my inking layer, and I'll stick a stand down in the corner because we have completed Kobolds having a snowball fight. all in 24 minutes, 26 minutes. Good job, people. Good job. Michael J. Passer says a monster manual done by a small press that hews closer to original fairy tales and myths would be a fun project. Prairie dog if they're hunted by ferrets. Kobold hunting ferrets. I think we're coming up with some good lore here tonight. Hello, Linnea. Thank you for joining us. Let's see. Michael said the Grognardia blog did a great pictorial history of kobolds. Yeah, it's interesting. You can. I'm glad that someone has. I'm sure that other sites have too. It's interesting to sometimes go and look how these things have been interpreted over time. Dave Rosser says he thinks the OSE folks already made such a book. I bet they have. You know what? That doesn't change the fact that it'd be fun. These are the kind of things that can be done multiple times. So if someone does it, great. Then they often will stamp their claim on it. Right? If everyone believes they did it and they did the best job you can, then other people stop. It's a weird thing, our hobby, where you can take multiple stabs at it. Sometimes people get possessive over the thing they did. They don't want anyone else to do it. And sometimes you just kind of look at what they did and say, oh, I should take what they did and add it to mine. It's all in your perspective. It's all in your perspective. Sounds like an art thing to say, doesn't it? Okay, let me have another little sip here. And start resetting, and we'll do one more. Because that's what we do here on Thursday nights. We do 3. I don't know if anyone noticed. Every time in my file, I always have 4 rounds, but we only ever do 3. I just want to be prepared for the 1 week that I feel like going. And I have a template file that I use for each of these. So I've got 4 rounds set up for each, knowing that I'm planning to only use 3. Whew. Okay, we've got that going on. One more sip, and then we'll have a little pause for a bookmark break. I do this because when this is finished and I go back on YouTube, I put bookmark breaks between each drawing, so it's easy for people to jump from one to the other. And this is a cue when I'm scanning that that now is where I should jump in and put that. So, yeah, in case you're wondering. Carrie says, check my messages. Okay. I will after the show. All right, we've done 2 drawings tonight. We had a Yeti and doing at a quilting bee, or a Yeti working on a quilt, and we had kobolds having a snowball fight. Let's go back to those dice, get one more pairing, and do one more drawing. Be better if I did that and made it work. Okay, one more time. Once, twice, boo, and 4 is our next who, and 4 and 4, or 4 and 5. What do we got there? Snowball fight and quilting bee. We've already done those. So we got a ninja or a T-Rex. 4 and 3. Ninja polar bear plunge. You're a cruel, cruel man, Michael Pastor. 4 and 3. Ninja polar bear plunge. Sounds good to me. Alright, let's turn off the images and we'll come back. Make sure everything's on, and we're going to have a ninja polar bear plunge. Now, what am I going to want to start the sketch with? Tell you what, I'm going to want to start the sketch with the ledge that the ninjas are jumping off into the water from. Often I'm starting with the character. This time I'm starting with the setting. So coming off the ledge, jumping into the water. Now, the good news for me as a cartoonist is Ninja are dressed in all black. Very easy to draw. Not a lot of details, which means that we can probably play a little more with what we find here. We're gonna add this is another one where we can maybe put a little extra detail in it because, or a few extra characters in it because the detail on the characters is going to be small. Um, I'm thinking here. I I noticed. I was talking with a friend about my two shows. Right, my Wednesday night show. I'm interviewing and doing a pretty detailed drawing. I'm interviewing a person and doing a pretty detailed drawing and a cartoon homage to a classic piece of D&D art. Here I'm doing pretty simple drawings, and I find it much easier to talk, to stay focused and keep talking in the other uh, on the Wednesday show because um, because I'm not having to think about what I'm drawing. I'm redrawing something that I'm already looking at. The kind of decisions of what goes where and what shape it is have already been figured out. Here I'm having to solve those problems, those creative problems. Um, and uh, that apparently ties up my the speaking part of my brain. All right, there we go. I think you've seen what I've added. You've probably figured out uh, my secret there. Are they usually more graceful than that? Yeah, yeah. Well, try and diving into a polar bear into icy waters. I think saps your grace. Does for me anyway. All right, here we go. I'm gonna switch the line size back up a bit to where we usually are. And again, because it's a ninja, I really don't need to put any details or many details onto their costumes. I just need to make sure that the lines carry the information I need them to. Like that. By putting those lines down that way, I'm showing the straight, flat down surface that to create the idea that this isn't a edge, a ledge. I was about to say, did I do a polar bear last week? And I didn't. I did a polar bear as part of my thumbnail, the thing that you see during the countdown, the intro countdown, and that is part of the video's thumbnail, and that was fun. Kind of glad to have another excuse. I like drawing polar bears; they're fun to draw. Okay, there we go. Ninja's taking the polar bear plunge. Hello, Parabostonian. See, Parabostonian says, "Hey, finally catching you live. Thank you for showing up. I appreciate it." Um, After starting to watch the 50 show, I hope you're enjoying that too. I love both of these shows. Um, I get a kick out of doing them, so it makes me happy that people are when I hear that people are enjoying them. Dave Rosser's back. Hello, Dave. Welcome back. The polar bear needs a ninja outfit. I was thinking about giving the polar bear a ninja outfit in his mouth. All right, let's go to the colors layer. And then turn off the sketch layer and see if there's anything I really need. Again, in particular, uh, something with as few details as ninjas. The lines have to be carrying the appropriate weight. There we go. That's going to need to be just a little darker. Otherwise, good. All right, let's come in here. And we're going to go to the colors layer, switch to the gloaming brush that I use here for the coloring, and we're going to use the faux black, the dark blue faux black. Gloaming brush. Didn't get that. There we go. A little too dark. So you can get away with, because uh, provided that it is clear that these are ninja, and I think it is, I can get away with a much grayer black rather than a dark, dark black. Um, because you, as the audience, expect that you know that it's a ninja, so you know that color must represent black. Again, playing with what your audience knows, using your audience's mind against them. You know, in the completely not evil sense. Here, I'm going to go even lighter on this one because he's inside the ice, and we're going to go and make it clear. I'm going to use the darker one as a shadow. And go to that to original dark as shadow here. Again, I'm going to find the underside in anything that is a little in shade, or like the open mouths, to make them look more concave. Put a little zest of darker color there. And then we're going to go for a dark blue, but a very light, low saturation dark blue for the water. Slightly darker version of that, and we can put some highlights here. And for the snow, we're going to go with a cleaner white, a lighter, purer blue. And for the polar bear, we're going to go for a much more gray blue, kind of like we did with the Yeti. I mean, it's still blue for sure, but it's a different, dirtier blue. Which again, I hope you'll notice, or I hope that it seems clear to you, that by adding these little touches to the shadowy areas, it makes it feel like this white, and even this white are different colors. When in fact they are. They're not. They're not at all. But your brain has been fooled. Yeah, I win again. And a little red into the Holy Cats It's Cold zingers. What do I think? I think I want to come back to the lines layer. I'm looking at it right now, and I think I want to add some motion lines. Oop. Yeah. Add a couple of motion lines around the bobbing icicle, or the icicle, to make it look like it's bobbing. It's not just sitting still in the water. I'm assessing the drawing right now. Yeah, I'll go with that. We have ourselves some ninja doing a polar bear plunge. Quite literally, the polar bear plunge, because the polar bear's making them plunge. Pat myself on the back. There we go. Ninja's polar bear plunge. And again, about 19-20 minutes. Pretty quick. Good for a Thursday, don't you think? Let me see what's going on here. Chris Andrew is here. Hello, Chris Andrew. Thank you for showing up. Good to see you. Oh, Paris has seen five of the other show in a week. That's a lot. I mean, I've done 50 episodes, so pace yourself. There's a lot to go through. The invisible Japanese assassins, yes. Well, you know how they make that happen. The pair's a polar opposite of friendly bears out east. Oh my, Chris. You got here just in time to pun. Let's see. Awesome. Oh, that was a fun night. I had a good time. So, do this one more time. I'll do another little hand wiggle. We'll do an outro, and then you guys can go have a good rest of your evening and hopefully a good weekend. So, here we go. Shh, shh, shh. There you go. We got ninjas on a polar bear plunge. That was our third drawing for the evening. Of course, we began with. Well, previously we had kobolds having a snowball fight, and before that we started off with a Yeti sewing a quilt. Quilting Bee was the actual thing, but just one Yeti, just one quilt. And that's what we did. here tonight on the show, and we had a lot of fun. Thank you to Michael Pastor, who's here at the beginning, always like waiting for the front door to open. Thank you, Michael. It always does my heart good to see the countdown end, and you're ready with a friendly hello. Michael Pastor's here. Chris Andrews here. Para-Bostonian here for the first time. Thank you for joining us. Dave Lemon and Linnea Lemon both came and joined us this evening. Had a good time. Oh, I had a good time. Hopefully they did too. Who else was here? Kerry. Kerry was here. My friend Kerry Andrew. Dave Rosser. Jace Machine Gaming. I didn't even notice that you had been here. I apologize for not saying hi to you earlier. My bad entirely. That's what happens. I got my head down and I'm doing drawings and I miss what's going on in the chat room. I suppose that's the way it's got to be, right? The game, you're not coming here to look at me looking at the chat room so I can say hi. You're coming to see some drawings, and to that end, I think I was successful. So, thank you all for coming. I really appreciate it. Those of you who are watching on replay, I really appreciate you too. It would do me a real solid. Look at me trying to sound cool. It would help me out if you could, whatever platform you're looking at this, please give it a thumbs up, give it a heart, give it a like, whatever it is. Please just click that button. It really is helpful. It's not about me counting crow. It's about telling the algorithm that this video was good enough that you took the time to engage with it. So engage with it. And also helpful, once it's done and it's on the replay on YouTube, if you even though you were here having a chat and saying fun stuff back and forth, if you could just leave a little comment, hey, had a good time tonight, whoa, fun drawings, whatever, I hope you do better next week, whatever. It doesn't have to be positive. Though, don't insult me, don't hurt my feelings. But if you could leave a message like that, again, it really, really does help getting the algorithm to show this show to other people. And then we can have more people come and have fun with us. And won't that be great? So go on out there, my friends. Do what you gotta do. Have your fun. And I will see you next week with another episode of Random Encounters.